Italian Football Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Questions from the Italian Football Podcast Patrons, where you, our patrons, decide what the show is about by simply sending in your questions via DM on Patreon. I can't read this morning for some reason. I'm joined, as always, by Carlo Garganese. So let's start with the first question, which has been sent in from Akbar P. He says, what's your combined France and Italy 11? This is interesting because I love these little combined ones that we've been doing, and people really enjoy them. So now we're having people send them in. We had one from Mohamed Wisha, our patron, who wanted us to do with Brazil. Now we have one from Akbar about France, and Akbar is the one who has decided which players we should choose from. So just before people lose their shit, we did not choose these. This was sent in to us from one of our patrons, the options. So what I'll do is I'll read each position, and then you say your one-word answer, and I say mine one. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
So, combined France, Italy 11, national team all time. Gigi Buffon or Fabio Barthez?
Gigi Buffon.
Buffon, me too. Bergomi or Thuram?
Thuram.
Bergomi. Maldini or Lizarazu?
Maldini.
Maldini. Baresi, Desai?
Baresi.
Shirea, Varane?
Shirea.
Tardelli, Deschamps?
Oof.
This is difficult.
It's a difficult one, yeah.
This is that's tricky for me.
Tough one. I think I'll go Tardelli. I think more complete, more well-rounded player.
People have forgotten how bloody good Deschamps was and how important he was for Juve and France. So I'm going to go with Deschamps. Pirlo versus Tigana.
I love Tigana. What a player in that Euro 84.
Magical. That midfield.
I'll go Pirlo.
Yeah, me too, because I love Pirlo. Gianni Rivera versus Zinedine Zidane. Oof.
Really tough.
How do you choose?
Yeah.
How do you choose?
Both Ballon d'Or winners. I think, look, if we're doing this on France versus Italy, this is international football. It has to be Zidane.
Exactly.
Has to be like Rivera showed his best for Milan, not for Italy.
Exactly.
And Zidane for France was just out of this world.
Out of this world. Same. I'm going with Zidane too because of that. Francesco Totti versus Michel Platini. I mean,
easy. Michel Platini.
Michel Platini. And I love Totti.
Platini, the greatest French player of all time.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree. Baggio versus Mbappe.
I mean, Mbappe, amazing. Like, if you see what he's done for France in the World Cups, 2 World Cups, 3? No, 2 World Cups.
Yeah,
It's going to be 3. Yeah, 2018 and 2022, amazing. So it's very close, to be honest. But I'm a bit biased. I'm going to have to say Roberto Baggio.
I'm biased. It's Baggio. I don't care. It only takes someone like Maradona for me to move past Baggio. And I'm biased, and I don't give a shit if anyone's offended. It's Baggio. Riva versus Thierry Henry.
Tough. I mean, Riva was amazing, but I think I'm going to have to go Thierry Henry. He was unbelievable.
Again, like you said, this is for the national team, not careers. And then Henry's France career, unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I'm going to go with Henri, Titi as well. He writes another question as well, Akbar. He says, 15-year-old Max Dowman got 30 minutes versus Leeds, while 16-year-old Rio Ngumoha bagged the winner in Liverpool versus Newcastle. I'm exaggerating here, but should young Italians move to Bedford and use English academies as a platform, given how good the pathway is for youngsters in England? Well, I'd love that if they moved to Bedford and came to the bake shop. That'd be brilliant content for us. I love the entire Primavera to relocate to Bedford.
Yeah, the content of the bakery does amazing. When I did that predictions on the new Serie A season, do you know how well that piece did?
I saw it did really insane. Well on all platforms.
Yeah, people love it. People love the bakery. That's why I'm.
It's a fantastic.
That's why I'm making a series. That's why I'm making a TV. This is an exclusive for everyone. I'm making a TV series on the cake shop. We're talking to production companies and trying to find production companies to take it on at the moment. So yeah, we'll do some more predictions. I think predictions, people really like just fan predictions. So I think we'll do some more. So anyone wants to come to the bakery, wants to be on the Italian Football Podcast,
yes,
just send me a message. And obviously you have to be local England based, or if you're on holiday, come and we'll film some stuff.
No, fly over to Bedford to go to the bakery. What are you on about? I don't care where you are. Fly over.
Yeah, we had you making cannoli, didn't we? We had you on
that
there.
Was so nice. That's what.
Yeah, I might do another predictions one actually on maybe Champions League, maybe Napoli, Man City, or one of the big Champions League games. We'll do another predictions video. So if anybody's in England wants to be on it, just send us send a message on Patreon or whatever, and I'll tell you the day. One of the days you can be there, and I'll get you. We'll film you on there. So we want to do more of that stuff. We want to get you guys. Yeah. This is what's so special about our podcast. We love getting the our community to be almost important. I mean, you write this show, which is great. This Q&A, you guys write this show, so we want you to be part of it. So but
one of our patrons, Claudio Calteruccio,
we've discussed this to death. Yeah, we've discussed this to death, haven't we? So it's just
one of our patrons, Claudio Calteruccio, who is from Bedford and a friend of mine as well, is an old friend of yours. He was in the prediction video. I saw them.
Yeah, him and his brother.
As for
his brother's a Juve fan, and he's the biggest.
He did tell me about that. Yeah, you did tell me about that when we. Yeah, I'd forgotten. No, but me doing cannoli is because I've been haranguing you for years that if I ever come to England, I want to go to the bake shop and I want to learn how to do it. Like this is something I've been harassing and haranguing you about for years, as long as we've known each other.
Yeah, you were natural.
It was nice. It was really nice. Thanks. I really enjoyed it. Darren O says, hi, Carlo. Just a quick one. What was the website you quoted for watching old matches? Thanks in advance. And I included this because we get this question quite a lot. So I wanted to be every week.
somebody write that.
Footballia.net. Footballia.net. So FOOTBALLIA.net. So I hope that answers.
Let me just double check it's net and not EU. Hang on.
If it is,
it's definitely football. They changed it.
Carlo. Bloody hell, Carlo. Bloody hell.
It is footballia.net. It's footballia.net.
Fucking hell.
It's the best website in the world.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So he's checked it. Mr. Burns has checked it. It's on the internet and it's footballia.net. Kunal Soni says there's been a lot of discussion about Italian clubs not being able to keep the top players and then in the Premier League. In the 11 Italians, if the Italians in the Premier League were starting 11 of a club in Italy, would they win the Scudetto? Which position would they finish? I love this question. He's done a 4-4-2 formation, and it's Vicario in goal, Michael Kayode, Coppola, Leoni, Udogi. Then Colioscio, Tonali, Calafiori in midfield for some reason, Emerson, Palmieri, and Gnonto and Chiesa up front. Thanks. And another question is... I might as well.
YouTube,
Yeah, and also Gileali says, what do you make of Federico Chiesa being left out of the Liverpool Champions League squad?
Should we start with Chiesa? Should we start with Chiesa?
Let's... go for it.
I have to say that I said, I'm not sure if I said it on this show, but I've said it to a lot of people that Chiesa's decision to stay at Liverpool, I said at the time, and this is going back 2 weeks before the end of the window, I said it's a big, big mistake from Federico Chiesa to stay at Liverpool. He needs to leave Liverpool. And what happened was he came on as a sub in that opening game of the season where it was 2-2. He came on as like a 10-minute, 8-minute sub at the end. He scored the winner, the late winner. Everyone went mad. He got, he was completely gassed by that, and he made an emotional decision to stay. And the plan was all summer that Chiesa was going to leave, and that despite the fact that he loves the club, he loves the fans, he still believes in himself, which is something I respect. I like the fact that he still believes in himself after everything that's happened. He still thinks he can be a top player, but he has to be realistic and realize that, number one, Arne Slot doesn't rate him. We saw that last season. And number two, look at the money spent by Liverpool this summer on top talent. 120 something million on Wirtz. Near up to 100 million on Ekitike, and then we knew that they were going to sign Alexander Isak. That was clear going into the last days of the window. That was obvious that was going to happen. So he needed to look at the players when you've already got Mo Salah, when you've already got all these offensive stars. There wasn't going to be any space for him, and this youngster as well, this 16-year-old wonder kid, Rio Ngoma as well, Ngumoa, if I pronounced that right. So yeah, he made a terrible decision. I blame him and his agent for making that call, and now he's been left out of the Champions League squad, which is awful. It's awful.
Look, I've got nothing more to add to that. I think it's. I think he should have left. I'm not sure whether it was a emotional decision. I think it was more an issue of him not wanting to give up on his Premier League career, honestly, and the fact that he's at Liverpool, the reigning Premier League champions, that he's prepared to fight for it. He's at one of the clubs, one of the top clubs, one of the biggest clubs, one of the most, the clubs that can win the Champions League, that are literally reigning Premier League champions. And I think he wants to part of that. I think he wants to show that. I think it was more than that, more than anything else, because of the fact that his ego and self-belief, like you said correctly, is that high that he thinks he can do it at Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have confidence in your ability at that level. Otherwise, I don't think you make it. I think Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a fantastic ability, example of that. Yes, his talent is unbelievable, but he had to believe in his ability that he would do it, and he had to keep at it, the consistency, to keep on fighting, and the mental strength. And I think Federico Chiesa has something
that, but you've also got to be realistic as well. This is a World Cup year. He had a sit-down conversation with Gattuso. Gattuso made it very clear, even publicly, that Chiesa needs to play regularly. Otherwise, he's not going to get a call up. They actually discussed very recently, before the squad was announced for these World Cup qualifiers, where they made a decision together not for Chiesa not to be called up, because they wanted him to have more time with Liverpool, to get on a roll with Liverpool after this. And let's be honest, can we really call it a promising start to the season? He scored one goal, and all his appearances, the ones that he's made, have been 10 minutes or less off the bench, and that's before the arrival of Isak. So I don't think we can really. I mean, if we're calling that a change around and a great start to the season, and Chiesa's hitting it off, and that he should suddenly be part of the Italy squad, then I'm sorry, but that's just depressing. That is, and I mean, I'm sorry, but he's not going to play, barely going to play at all. I mean, look at these are the other forward options. You've got Florian Wirtz, you've got Alexander Isak, you've got Mo Salah, you've got Cody Gakpo, you've got Hugo Ekitike, that's 5, and you've got the wonder kid Rio Ngoma as well. So that's 6. So he's definitely 6th choice. Some would argue that he might even be 7th because Slot really likes this Ngoma, and Slot clearly doesn't like Chiesa. He doesn't rate him. We know that he doesn't rate him. So you're talking 6th or 7th choice. You're not in the Champions League squad already, so you can't play any of those Champions League games. So basically, you're fighting for minutes in the Premier League when you're 6th or 7th choice. He's not going to play. He's not getting.
No, he's not going to play. And my point,
he's on the bench until January.
He is,
unless he moves to Turkey on loan, or Saudi Arabia or something, which is not good for Italy either.
No, listen, I agree with all of that. My point was simply that I think the reason for his decision was something else. I think it was more of him believing in himself, and I do respect it. Whether or not it was foolish or not, well, so far the indication is it was a foolish, misguided belief, because he's at Liverpool, and at Liverpool he just doesn't cut it. That move was a mistake. I was against it at the time. I remember going on Talk Sport with what's his name, Rory or whatever his name is,
Rory the Tory.
Yeah, that's the one. The guy who said that Erling Haaland was it? He's going to fail in the Premier League or whatever it was.
15 goals and he scored them before the end
something
of August.
like that. Yeah, exactly. I remember being on that.
You pointed out on that video, I remember.
Oh, I did. Of course I did. What do you think? I was not going? You think I was going to go there and not do that? How long have you known me?
Well, yeah. Yeah. To be fair, he did.
As if I would let that slide.
He took it well. He did take it well. To be fair.
Well, I did. I was funny about it. I wasn't rude about it. I mean, I made a little dig at the end, because the host is a Liverpool fan, and he said, "I hope you're wrong on Chiesa failing at Liverpool." And I said, "You mean you hope I'm as wrong as Rory was about Haaland?" And then that was the end of it. And they both laughed. And I thought it was hilarious, because he's a Chelsea fan, and he kept saying that, when I said Chelsea aren't going to win anything, he made that face, and Chelsea ended up winning nothing that season. So, as if I'd said something outlandish. It's like, well, no, Chelsea weren't in a position to win anything. But yeah, no, listen, with regards to Chiesa, I do think that you're right in everything you say. I just think that I understand his reasoning for it. I think it was maybe a little bit ambitious and a bit misguided. But I don't think I do think he should return to Italy. I really do think so. I think it was a mistake.
Think that by doing this, I'm not going to say it's bad for the Italy national team, because is he ever going to get to the levels that are good enough for an Italy team that wants to, first of all, qualify for the World Cup and then actually do well at the World Cup? Is Chiesa of the level? I mean, he might even still have been, if he'd have been playing minutes, good enough to get in the Italy squad, purely because our options at outside attackers and wingers are so bad. Excuse me, that he still could have got in and maybe been of some use. That's not going to happen now, and that's where I'm very critical of him, because it's a World Cup year. He surely has to think of the World Cup. He can't just think of his club career. He needs to think of he's never played in the World Cup. I mean, none of this generation have played in the World Cup. He's never played in the World Cup, Chiesa. And for a player with so much ability, generational player, that's sad if he never plays in the World Cup. And he might not play in the World Cup regardless whether Italy get there anyway, because he's going to be on the bench now until January. So he's not going to be playing any of these qualifiers. And then after the January, maybe he gets a move to a Serie A club, and he's in a race against time to prove himself in those few months to try and get into the World Cup squad. The chances are that's it. That's maybe his Italy career over, maybe, or World Cup career. He's 28, going to be 28.
If he doesn't leave in January, and I think he will leave in January, and I think the fact that he's out of the Champions League squad is a big, just goes to show. But it was very expected. I wasn't surprised by it. I was kind of expecting it.
Well, I was surprised also, Nimmer, to say, surely before you make that decision, even on deadline day, the Champions League squad gets announced. They always get announced. September the 2nd or 3rd is when the squads get announced. Surely you're his agent, especially his agent. I have to criticize his agent. The agent has to go to Arne's slot and get assurances. Is Chiesa going to be in the Champions League squad? You ask that question on deadline day or the day before deadline day. You 100%. Ask that question, and if you get an answer, and if they can't give you a firm answer, because they would have chosen that squad already before then, and you get their answer, that agent hasn't done his job.
Agree.
Not asking that question.
I agree 100%. Let's answer the question, Kunal's question on the Italians. If the 11 Italians in the Premier League, he mentioned if they would win the Scudetto. I mean, Calafiori in midfield, Tonali, okay, Coppa, but that defense, Udogi, fine, but I don't know what to make of Leone's had one good 6 months. And Coppola had a great season. Michael Coyote is a favorite of mine. You know that. Vicario is a little bit.
They would win the Scudetto. No, you can't tell me this team is better than Napoli. You can't tell me this team is better than Inter.
Exactly. Would they make top 4? I'm not sure. No,
they've got quite a few players that obviously would walk into any Serie A team.
Well, it's Tonali, Calafiori.
Like Calafiori, maybe you could say Udogi when he's at his best, and Leone potentially in time. But yeah, as a team put together, constructed into a team, look at Emerson at left midfield and Calafiori, you're playing out of position. In that it wouldn't. Top half.
9, 8, 9, 10, somewhere there. Next question. Jacob Dunn says, hi, Nima and Carlo. Hope you both are well. I was wondering which side you thought was better, Roma's 2000-2001 title-winning side or Lazio's 99-00 title-winning side? And what will your combined 11 of these two teams be? Now, this is interesting.
Yeah, I'll answer the first question. I think in terms of who was the better team as a team put together, that word structured and compact and everything, Roma's team was better as a team. If we're talking about which team had the more talent, the more kind of world-class individual players, I'd probably say Lazio.
It's funny you mentioned that.
That's how I would say it. But if you want to talk about who was the better team, I would say Roma. That season that Roma won the Scudetto, they were the best team from start to finish throughout the whole season. They were comfortably ahead, even though Juventus sort of tried to push them towards the end. But it was Roma were always winning that Scudetto. They were always ahead. Lazio were surprise winners. Juventus had that Scudetto in hand. I think they were 6 points ahead with 3 games left or 4 games left. Juventus threw it away. There was also obviously the controversy on the last day of the season when they played on a waterlogged pitch, which they lost. So Lazio won that. Lazio won that. Didn't win that season because they were clearly the best team. They won also due to circumstances. Roma were the best team. But if you're talking about
we should remember though that Lazio beat Juventus towards the end that season. My opinion on this is completely different. I think in terms of a team, which team was better, there's no doubt that it was Lazio because of the fact that they also won trophies in Europe. They reached European accolades, whilst Capello's Roma only had that one season. They didn't do anything else other than that. Lazio, that Sven-Göran Eriksson Lazio team were good for 4 or 5 years, 4 years.
I'm talking about just that season as that season only. You're right. I agree with you. Over a number of years, yes, no doubt about it. But I'm just talking about just that one season in Serie A only, not Europe. But you're right. And I think that individually, though, like if we were going to do a combined 11, should we do a combined 11?
Yeah, that we will. And I want to get to this because I take the opposite view. I think that on an individual level, I think the Roma players that season, the level they reached are better than Sven-Göran's, like on an individual level. Yeah, I mean, from Cafu to Candela to Samuel to Totti to Montella to, I mean, but I mean, let's do the combined 11, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you keep score? Because when can you keep score or something?
Well, no, we just go through each position. So goalkeeper.
No, I mean, can you keep score of which side has more?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Just make a note.
Marchigiani or Antonioli in goal. I think that's quite close. I think you could go either. I'd probably go Marchigiani.
Yeah, Luca Marchigiani.
Yeah.
Right back
Negro, you're going to go Cafu.
I mean, Cafu.
You're going to go Cafu.
In the middle of
1-1.
Yeah, 1-1. And then in the middle of defense.
Left back, you've got Candela or who was
Favalli.
left back? Favalli. Yeah. I'd go Candela. Yeah.
So 2-1 Roma. I think central defense is 1-1 because I pick Samuel and Nesta.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, Samuel and Nesta. You got to remember they played different formations. Roma played a back three. So,
but I'm picking the two best defenders.
We'll do it as a back four. Yeah. Okay.
I'm picking the two best defenders, basically.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we're 3-2 Roma.
Yeah.
Then midfield,
left midfield, Pavel Nedved played.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit lopsided because the formations, they didn't play with left midfielders. Let's do centre mid. It's probably easier doing centre midfielders. Like who were the starters? Roma's starters in midfield were Cristiano Zanetti, Emerson, and Tomasi. Those were the 3 starters. Whereas for Lazio,
you have to go Sebastian Veron, Cholo Simeone, Stankovic. Nedved. I mean that's your midfield 3.
Well, yeah. Well, and there's Nedved as well.
Yeah. So if you're playing a 4-4-3-3, I mean, did you see what I'm saying?
They played 4-4-2, didn't they? That's
yeah,
more of a 4-4-2. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we're playing a 4-4-2, I'd go with
Mihailovic as well.
Veron.
Remember Mihailovic
Sorry?
as well. Remember,
Yeah,
Mihailovic
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
I mean, I'd go.
I think Nedved has to be in the midfield.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So does Emerson. Emerson has to be in the midfield. Those two.
Exactly.
There's no
and
non-negotiable.
Simeone. I mean, Juan Veron.
I wouldn't pick another Roma midfielder. That's for sure. It would be one of the Lazio ones, whether you pick Simeone or whether you pick Veron. I would pick one of those two. So
I'd go with
matter.
I'd go with Nedved, Emerson, and Veron. No, I'll 4-4-2. I'll go 4-4-2. I don't care if it doesn't work. Veron, Simeone, Emerson, and Nedved.
I would only go 3 in the midfield because there's a lot of attacking quality that I want to pick. So I would go 2 Lazio players and 1 Roma. So we're now even at 4-4. We're at 4-4 now.
And then up front,
4-4 for me.
Yeah, I think for Lazio, yeah. But I'd go 2 up front, and for those 2 up front, it's Totti and Batistuta.
Well, I've got 3 players to pick. So if you're going Totti and Batistuta, then you're going to finish with 6-5 to Roma. 6-5 to Roma for you. Whereas for me, I'm at 4-4 right now, and I've got 3 players to pick. So I'm going to have Totti 100%.
Batistuta.
I'm going to have Batistuta. I'm going to have Batistuta as well. So that's 6-4. So Roma have won 6-4.
Yeah.
And then the other player I would pick. Who was up front for Lazio? Who was up front for Lazio? Salas, isn't it?
Salas,
Mancini as well.
Ravanelli, Mancini.
Yeah. It'll be one of the Lazio guys. So I'd probably go
Simone Inzaghi.
We're going 4-3-1-2. So we have Totti as in behind as the 10, and then up front we'll go Batistuta and Salas or Mancini. I'm going to be full romantic and go Mancini.
Yeah,
I want to see Mancini and Totti. I want to see Totti and Mancini play together.
Oh my god!
So 6-5 Roma. Both of us 6-5 Roma.
Yeah, which is my point. Individual talent for me, that Roma side is better, but as a team, as a collective, I think Lazio side was built to last and did.
Yeah,
let's remember.
You might be right now. You might be right now that we've gone through. There's Conceição as well at Lazio. So
yes, Sergio Conceição as well.
There's a lot of quality.
Yeah. He was magical at Lazio, by the way. He was horrible. He was great at Parma and Lazio, but he didn't do so well at Inter. They had Nestor Sensini as well, Alen Boksic. Let's remember, Lazio sold Christian Vieri to Inter that summer and used that money wisely to buy Veron, Sensini, and Cholo Simeone. So Sven did had a fantastic mercato. So yeah. So yeah, I love these questions. Right, next question. Mikey the Cola Garrett says, hi fellas. Retro Mikey question for you on this day. I'm sending in this question 30 years ago. Marco Van Basten announced his retirement. He's sending in this question on the day 30 years ago when Marco Van Basten announced his retirement from football. What were your memories of Marco Van Basten as a player, his injuries, and just how damn good truly he was? And just how good truly was he? As always, thank you for taking the time to relive the past while analyzing the present. Well, thank you, Mikey, for those kind words. Van Basten for me is the last Ballon d'Or I think he wins is, I can't remember which, it was early 90s. It was against IFK Gothenburg. He scores 4 goals in the Champions League at the San Siro.
1992.
92, yeah. And I remember it. I was a kid. I was staying up watching that, and it was, I mean, like it's as close to what a perfect centre forward performance that you can get that game.
Well,
you have to remember back then, IFK Gothenburg is not the shambles it is now. They had Ravelli and they had Swedish national team players that 2 years later that went to the semi-finals of the Euros in 92, and 2 years later finished in the third in the USA 94. That was a good quality side in the World Cup. So you have to remember who he did these things against.
Gothenburg beat Man United. They beat
Barcelona.
Barcelona.
Milan 2 years later.
Yeah. I mean, you said perfect centre forward. That's exactly how you describe Marco Van Basten. For me, Marco Van Basten, I think Capello said this as well. Marco Van Basten is the most complete number 9 we've ever seen in football. The guy had everything. He had absolutely everything. He was the perfect number 9. He was a goal scorer, right foot, left foot, lethal finisher, amazing in the air. He could drop deep. He could hold up the ball, play with his back to play. He could interchange with his teammates. He was athletic. He was 6'3". He was strong. He had an incredible, mentally incredible temperament. Ice cool. You know, he could do everything. He scored the most amazing goals outside the area, inside the area, volleys, amazing at bicycle kicks. I mean, just look at some of the goals that he scored in his career. You know, the goal, obviously, the most famous one for Holland in the Euro 1988 final, that volley that he did. I mean, some of the bicycle kicks. I think one of the bicycle kicks was against Gothenburg. Actually.
Yeah, that's the game I said. That's the game. I think it's number 4 at the San Siro. I think it's the 4th goal, and it's etched in my mind because I've never. It's just
unreal. Yeah, unbelievable. And so, I mean, this guy had everything, and his goal scoring record was out of this world. I think he was six times he was top scorer between the Dutch league and the Serie A. You know, 3-time Ballon d'Or winner. You know, and somebody that was part of for me the greatest club team that there's ever been. That AC Milan team under Sacchi that dominated the Champions League, won 2 in a row. You know, he was part, obviously, of that legendary three Dutch players with Rijkaard and with Hullet. And you know, this is somebody that achieved so much, yet still his career was over before the age of 30 because of ankle injuries, which forced him to retire. You know, his last game, I think, came before the age of 30, I believe.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, he finally did retire. He finally retired in 1995. But his last game was in the 1992-93 season when he was 29. You know, so he just imagine how much he still had to give. You know, and yeah, so incredible legacy. And you know, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, I think, was when Fabio Capello signed him for Juventus. Capello used to give him videos of Van Basten and told him, right, just watch Van Basten. This is what you need to do to improve. And you can't see a little.
I remember when Zlatan came to Italy. They kept making these comparisons to Van Basten and saying, you know, he's got a physique like you, and you should try to be like him. I think the only other striker that I can remember in terms of completeness, the perfect striker, would be R9 Ronaldo, who ironically was also his injuries ruined that career. But yeah, I think those two are the most...
Eusebio would be the other one for me. Eusebio from the 60s. He was the complete number 9 in terms of on game. But Van Basten was just...
No, Van Basten and Ronaldo, R9. I think R9 and Van Basten, I'd say, are complete. But yeah, great question. Hamza Mir says, question for the pod: how the hell is Corvino still at Lecce? Look the job he's done at Lecce. Why aren't the big clubs going for him? For me, we should have tried to get Corvino. Thanks, and keep up the great work. Look, Corvino did great, not just at Lecce, he did great at Fiorentina. But you have to remember, in Italy, it's not just about, unfortunately, it's not just about competence. It's also about if you play the game, know the right people, dress the part, look the part. And at Juve, Inter Milan, Corvino would never work there. It's just they would never. Unfortunately, there is a snobism in the clubs in the north, and the reason why Sarri never really worked at Juve is because of that, the snobism towards him, towards his mannerisms, how he dresses, how he talks, how he behaves. There is that kind of snobbery, and we shouldn't beat around the bush. There is this, looking down on people within these three big ones. Unfortunately, you have to look the part, you have to dress the part, you have to talk the part. It's not just about how good you are. Unfortunately, that's just let's be honest about that.
That's the same in any corporate environment. Unfortunately, in corporate in the corporate world, it's more about the optics than it is about your actual ability. Which is why I don't get on. Which is why I don't particularly like the corporate world.
Never worked in it. Never will.
I can't deal with all the fakeness of the corporate world.
Never worked in it. Never will. That's what I'm gonna say. Darren O says, "Hi, Carlo and Nima. Help me as a Bologna fan. I'm angry, disappointed, and confused. We set our stall saying Immobile is a top striker when we have Castro. Already he's injured. Ferguson not starting too. The starting lineup has no new signings. I'm worried. This is not the progress I expected from the club. Can you discuss? There was a chance to push on, not go backwards." I've said this on our preview. I said it in our Mercato review. I agree with everything you said, and I'm glad that you as a Bologna fan see it that way too. I'm disappointed. For me, the two biggest disappointments this summer of the Serie A as a whole, Bologna and Parma. Like, I'm genuinely disappointed on their Mercato, Bologna, for different reasons. Bologna had the chance to push on and do something because they were so good last season. They won a trophy. They played some of the best football. They were the best team in Serie A for 2 months, if you ask me. Parma, they have something to build on, and they just decided to cash in on everything and bring in a manager without no experience, who's younger than half the squad he coaches, and he's got players who we know nothing about. It's a huge gamble. I'm really disappointed in that. I'm disappointed in both of them.
I agree with everything you said. I would add Atalanta to that as a disappointment in the transfer window, like in terms of business.
The Juric hatred must stop. This anti-Juric.
Forget Juric. Forget Juric. I'm actually defending Juric when I say this because I think their business was terrible. Atalanta.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'm actually defending him. And when they perform badly, I'm not going to blame it all on Juric. I'm not. Yeah. But what's disappointed me about all of those three teams, including Atalanta, because they've had such a good record in the transfer window, including Parma after losses, but in particular Bologna, is they've got someone there called Sartori who is supposed to be the master, and that's what makes it so disappointing and so unlike him.
Agreed.
To go for these kind of players like Immobile, who's now got injured and is out for 2 months, Bernardeschi, and the only explanation I can think for it is they wanted someone with European, because they're playing in Europe and they wanted some European experience. But if you're not good, you're not good enough. It doesn't matter how old you are. I've always go and sign Raul Blanco at 48 years old, or Clarence Seedorf at 50, or something. So yeah, I'm very disappointed because I think they had the chance to push on, and like you said, they didn't push on.
Agreed, 100%. And that's to everyone who keeps telling us that we only want experienced players and don't give blah blah blah. Well, for us, it doesn't matter. We don't view football that way. Next question, Jonny M says, would you consider? Johnny Manja says, ciao guys, would you consider a once a month short episode solely covering Serie B? Forza Palermo, Johnny Manja. I'll have to convince Carlo of that. He doesn't want me.
Listen, he doesn't. We'd love to do loads more, but it's we don't have. It's just finding the time, and unfortunately, it's and just to be completely open and honest with you, it's also the yes, there are people that like Serie B, but it's a very small number, and it's not viable to cover Serie B. Not at that level, not a once a week, to be honest with you. Not for us, but there's others that do it well. I mean, Destination Calcio covers Serie B really well. I'd recommend them if you like your Serie B.
Yeah, they broadcast. I think they got the rights to the Serie B.
They got the rights. So if you like your Serie B, I would recommend them. But I mean, it's. Yeah, Palermo. Yeah, we got a question on Palermo actually in a bit, so we'll talk about them in a little bit.
Yeah, but listen, I'd love to do just not just once a month, once a week on the Serie B and the Serie C.
Well, Nima, you can open up your own tier, Patreon tier, Serie B only.
It'd be me and 3 other people talking about discussing which of Alino Diamanti's Serie C free kicks are the best. Like, I mean, it's so niche. But yeah,
you and Jonny Manja can do a show
yeah,
together.
just me and Jonny.
Manja Serie B.
Yeah, it's just me and John. It's just me and Jonny then. Right, next question. But yeah, the Serie I will be making. I mean, I shoehorn in Serie B content on this pod as much as I can, as much as Carlo lets me, without saying I don't want to talk about this. Let's move on. Next question. Matthew Provenzano says,
Avellino in Serie B now, so I've actually got more. I've got more interest.
Yeah, I know, and I can't remember
they're going to do well, but we'll see.
Roberto Insigne is there, and I can't remember who it was on YouTube. I think in a comment said
bring back Lorenzo. Yes,
Lorenzo, and I was like, and I replied, bring back Lorenzo, bring back Verratti, and Ciro Immobile as well, and then go full Pescara and make Avellino great again.
Yeah.
Matthew Provenzano says, ciao gentlemen, hope you're doing well. I got two questions for the pod. First, can you explain what a bond is and how it exactly affected Inter? The second is, what is your favorite dialect saying? My favorite is my Calabrese's dad. When he's watching football, he'll yell, questo giocatore sei uno cesso, which translates to, this footballer is a toilet bowl. Not even shit, but the bowl that gets shit on. Take care, guys. Okay. In finance, so a bond is a IOU, is a kind of a security where under which the issuer, which is known as the debtor legally, owes the holder a debt, the creditor, and is obliged, depending on whatever those terms are, to provide cash flow, usually as well as interest, and it has a maturity date, meaning a specific date it has to be paid by. Inter had that to raise more money, but because it was expiring and these things are usually have a higher interest rate, Inter paid that off and refinanced it by loaning less, paying more of their own out of their own pocket to remove that. So now that's gone. They refinanced it, but they refinanced it by loaning lower and paying amortizing a lot from their own cash that they've made these last couple of years, and so it's just a regular loan now. It's not a bond. My favorite dialect saying, there's a saying in Naples which I learned from Patrick Kendrick. It's got nothing to do with football, but it's so brilliant. It's when someone's crafty and shifty, they say, you're as crafty. In Naples, they say you're as crafty and shifty as a son of a prostitute, because you have to be crafty and shifty if you are the son of a prostitute. It's got nothing to do with calling someone a son of a whore or something like that. It's not an insult like that. It's actually appraising someone, saying you're as crafty and shifty as a son of a prostitute. I love that. Naples is the best for that. Like, it's so many beautiful.
The best one is, and I've just tried to Google it to try and get the exact words, but there's a saying in Napoli of basically every, like, when you say, oh, someone's beautiful, right, when maybe they're not really that beautiful, and somebody that will then say someone will say, oh, everyone's beautiful to their mother, like, or there's a saying for that, and I'm just trying to Google it. I think it's ogni scarafone è bella a mamma. So every cockroach is beautiful to its mother.
I love it.
Ogni scarafone è bello a mamma soia. That's my favorite.
Naples is the best. Like, when it comes to these
direct. They're so direct.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, again, crafty. I need to find it as crafty or smart as the son of a prostitute. I mean, that's just brilliant. It's just brilliant. It's so good. Yeah, no, I love it. Next question. Aristodimos Cassis says, hi, Neiman Carlo, I got another question for you. What exact role does Ranieri have at Roma? The advisor position is something like an honorary position, or will he have a more day-to-day role? Also, I read something about Roma wanting to get Tsimikas on loan. I'm from Greece, so I really rate the guy. Do you think it's good for him to work with Gasperini and Ranieri? Well, Ranieri's role is from what I understood, he's got a supervisory role in terms of making things run smoothly and basically overseeing the Roma project while the Friedkins have fun in England with Everton. That's kind of what I understand the role to be. So I think it is a day-to-day kind of thing. As for Tsimikas, where did he end up going? Do you know that?
Tsimikas went to Roma.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Tsimikas went to Roma, yeah.
Yeah, so now, because he sent this before the Mercato closed. So, yeah, he went to Roma. And I think, look, as far as players working with Gasperini, look, we've seen him do this so many times with players that if they work in this...
wings backs under Gasperini have to work very hard. They have a big job getting up and down that pitch, but a lot of intensity, and they very rarely play the full 90 minutes under Gasperini. So that's why Gasperini there's certain positions Gasperini wants double players for. So he wants 2 right wing backs, 2 left wing backs. He wants 2 attacking midfielders, well, 4, let's say, in the 2 behind the 1. And that's why Gasperini, there's rumours he's very, very unhappy with Roma's transfer window because he didn't get the players he wanted, certainly in those kind of wide attackers or inverted wide attacker roles. And so because you have to rotate a lot because of the demands of Gasperini. So Tsimikas will play a lot along with Angelino. They'll rotate a lot on that role. But they don't have the options probably in those attacker roles, which is why Gasperini's not happy.
Yeah, nothing more to add to that. Next question. Magnus Kaufman says, hi guys, with Filippo Inzaghi in charge, can Palermo get back to Serie A? Yes, I do think so. I think he's proven time and time again that Serie B he's very, very astute at the Serie B. And I think the reason he left Pisa is because now he's with Palermo, they're backed by the City Group, and he understands that if he can get them to the Serie A, there's actually muscles there to build something, and he can relaunch his career in the Serie A instead of the Beneventos and everything else that he's done. So yeah, absolutely, 100%. He's smart. Filippo Inzaghi is smart. You could say that he's as shifty and smart as the son of a prostitute. He's to use a Neapolitan saying, as we alluded to in the previous question. Matty Steele Mills says, ciao boys, love your kit analysis in the Serie A preview and agree with Nimari Genoa St. George's cross shirt. However, did you see the dust-up model's leg tattoo from the release? I thought you were going to mention it when the kit was brought up. So, and he asked, and he says, and also for the Q&A, on the heels of your discussion about Mussolila's great-grandson playing right wing for Lazio, can you speak a bit for most clubs being associated with certain political leanings? Is that an Italian football thing, a general European football thing? I've mostly heard of Lazio having a history of far-right supporters, but I was curious if there's a bigger picture across the league. We don't have that much of that team to politics association in America, so I'm generally curious. The image he's talking about, the promo for Genoa, is a guy with a tattoo, and one of the tattoos on his legs is a man, or I think looks like a man. Yeah, is a man doing doggy style on a woman. There's a tattoo on the guy's leg. Yeah. The model has a tattoo of that on his left leg, on his left leg, as he's sitting modeling the Genoa San Croce shirt. It's
very much on brand,
which is very Serie A and on brand. Listen, there is you have to understand that in America, football or sports clubs are franchises owned by billionaires. In Europe, they're funded by working class communities, and they are community sports clubs. That's their roots, right? That's the general roots that they have. Remember a Nottingham butcher founded Milan. A group of artists left Milan and created Inter. And so on. Juventus, I think, was created as a youth club. That's why the name Juventus comes from, isn't it? Yeah. Like originally
from Nottingham, I think. Well, they had Notts County shirts originally, but also a lot of kind of like dock workers founded a lot of clubs, not just in Italy, but in other countries.
Everywhere,
South America,
everywhere, everywhere. So that's why it was most of these clubs come from working class backgrounds, and of course some were obviously some created more middle class backgrounds and upper class depending on where they came from. Like Fulham has West London has always been affluent, isn't it? Chelsea and Fulham and that. Even though those clubs are working class club, like their supporters, but they have a more affluent. They're situated in more affluent places, so that would obviously color their political leanings. But in Italy, I'd say Livorno is famously left wing, famously anarchist left wing. Lazio, of course, famously right wing. Hellas Verona, famously neo-Nazi and Nazi, and that's not even like hyperbole. That is just a fact. They were celebrating Eichmann and Hitler and Himmler at their fan gatherings. Like, that's not even, just go and look it up. There's a documentary on it, saying stuff like that. So you have the whole, spectrum in Italy. Some clubs curvas have changed identity, like Roma's was left wing, now it's right wing, and then it became kind of neutral. Inter and Milan have changed identities throughout the years. Their curva were Nazis at some point. The fan base was generally centrist left when Berlusconi, whereas with Milan they were left wing, and then Berlusconi took over and kicked out the left wing curva, and they became fascist. So, yeah. So I mean, it's very, very complicated. But yeah, there are
Berlusconi and the communists say. Do you remember when he said that the Chinese used to eat babies? Do you remember?
Insane. Yeah.
They used to boil babies.
Mental. Majin Temshi says, I hope all is well. Is Roma finally behaving like a big club and not protecting the Romans? Pellegrini has been a poor player during the last 2 years and honestly an average player before, with the exception of Mourinho's first season. I like this new trio of Gasp, Massara, and Ranieri. Thoughts? I agree. I like Ricky Massara. I think he's a fantastic sporting director. I think he was poorly treated at Milan and not respected enough. And I think that I'm glad he's got a job with Roma, and I hope that he does well. Gasperini, it seems that he works well with Gasperini, and it seems that Ranieri and Gasperini are working well as well. No, I got to say, I like this Roma. I like what they've done. I like where they're going. It seems like it's all coming together.
It started well, obviously, in the league. There has been, obviously, a little bit of sort of rift over Gasperini and Massara about the end of the transfer window, not getting in the players that he wants. So we'll see we'll see how that develops. But otherwise, I think they've started building they're on the right track.
They are.
And as for Pellegrini, I agree. This will be his last season at Roma, and he actually rejected moves away from Roma this summer, including, I think, to Turkey, I believe, maybe. Or was it Greece on the deadline day, or even maybe since, with Turkey's window still open. So, we'll see. He's definitely the most un-Gasperini player ever, Pellegrini. So I think it's going to be difficult for him.
Agreed. Next question. Matty Stillmill says again, sorry if it's been done before. I understand Jeep is a US car company made in Detroit, but seeing Juventus with A, 2 front shirt sponsors, and B, a Visit Detroit front shirt sponsor seems so weird and random. What are some of the worst or most random shirt sponsors you can remember from Serie A? And what are some of the best, most pitch perfect ones you can recall? Let's just so we know, Juventus and Jeep are owned by the same company. So that's why that is. But I just wanted to, so to me, it's not weird at all. It actually makes sense. But what about some of the best ones?
Then we had this question. We had this question like a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? Of the most worst.
I mean,
ones.
For me,
the best ones. Yeah, the worst
Juve, Sony, Inter, Pirelli or Fiorucci, Milan, Opel, Milan, Opel, Napoli with the Mars bar, with Maradona,
and Boitani.
Boitani.
Juventus, Ariston, Juventus, Sony, Roma, with what's the one that I've got the shirt of? Baril, was it Baril?
Barilla.
Barilla, so many.
The worst ones, I have these crypto crap that's been all over Italy the last few years. Like,
what was the one that Inter got where they didn't have a sponsor?
Roma and Inter didn't get paid.
They got one out randomly for like the last couple of months of the season.
But they didn't get paid, Inter and Roma, didn't they? Not that one. They didn't get paid, and so they played without a sponsor when they were in the Champions League final. Against City. yeah, they got bamboozled by. Oh dear. Yeah. So yes, a lot of those are not very nice, but they look so bad. I mean, they just don't look nice on the shirt. But yeah, so those are the ones. I don't even remember the name of them. That's how much I've like suppressed the memory of those. But yeah, but usually them are not very nice. If you got one that you don't remember, that you don't like,
I can't, and not with the actual sponsor, but I mean, we did check out our Serie A preview show. We talked about the ones we didn't like this season. The
right,
Roma
next
one
question.
last season. I didn't like the Roma one last season.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Next question. Nick Passaretti says, "Hi guys, fun one this time. What's the Serie A best 11 by continent? Which Serie A best 11 by continent do you think would win in a tournament of the? Let's do South America, Africa, Asia, and then to prevent Europe from winning automatically, split it into Tomato Europe and Potato Europe." And he sent a map of Tomato Europe and Potato Europe. That's basically absolutely
It's basically Northern Europe and Southern Europe, right?
Yeah, Central Northern Europe, and
Northern Europe is basically the areas of Europe like Scandinavia and white.
Germany, half of France, most of Eastern Europe and Russia, and then Turkey, Italy, half south of France are Tomato.
Well, look, listen, the South America one's easy. It'll be Brazil or Argentina that will win it. There's no point even going through that. We know that's clear. Yeah. But as for Potato Europe and Tomato Europe, I think, are we doing it now or all time? If we're doing it now.
No, I mean he says best 11, so I think all time.
All time, yeah. I mean, obviously, Potato Europe will have all the French players, right?
And the Germans.
And the Germans.
The Germans,
yeah, the Germans. So I think it will probably be. It depends. Are we including Italy in Tomato Europe?
Yeah, we are.
Are we discounting Italy? Italian?
No, Italy's part of Tomato Europe, definitely.
If we're discounting Italy, because
they're part of Italy.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're discounting it because we're talking about non-Italian countries, and I think that Potato Europe win because they've got all the French legends like Platini, Thuram, Zidane, and the German legends like Mateus and Bremer and these kind of players. Whereas I think there's not been so many Spanish players or even Portuguese really compared to French and German. But
and the Dutch. The Dutch. I mean, Jesus, the Dutch is Potato Europe.
Potato. So yeah, definitely.
Belgium.
Then you've got to take into account. You're going to include Italians in Tomato Europe, and that's obviously going to bring a lot of strength to the Tomato Europe. So I would say, let's say a draw if you include Italians. If you're not including Italians, definitely Potato Europe. Where does Balkans come under?
Balkans is half and half. I've actually, you know what? Let me look at the map again.
Because there's been some great Balkan players.
No, Balkans is definitely Tomato Europe.
Tomato, yeah. Well, I still stand by what I said.
I agree. As for Asia and Africa, like there's not been enough, especially from Asia. Africa, there've been some shining lights, but I don't think they would win the Serie A. Like South America and Tomato Europe, Potato Europe. Those are the ones.
Yeah, for sure.
CJ Barilla says, what do you make about Fabregas' comments last week about he wants to sign young Italian players, but there isn't anyone to buy?
It's very sad. We spoke about this briefly last week when Lex was on the Q&A. She brought it up. I said I think it's sad, really sad that I really respect Fabregas. He's forget about him as a manager, but as a kind of somebody who's got a way of thinking of the game and the way he rates players and everything. I think when somebody like that says that, then you've got to sit up and take notice. It's not that nothing that we didn't know already, but what I said last week is the problem isn't producing the players at youth level up until the age of kind of 16, 17. I don't think 18. I don't think we have a problem because you look at how well our under national teams are doing in these Euro tournaments, under 17s Euros, under 19 Euros. Like in recent years, our record has been really good. The problem is developing these players from the ages of kind of 17, 18 up until kind of like 21. That's where the pathway is just a joke and the system is completely not fit for purpose, and the players just don't. I refuse to believe that, that we can say that players that are winning these tournaments under 17s and under 19s. I refuse to believe that those players aren't good enough. It's that they've won those tournaments not because they're not good. I refuse to believe that. I believe it's something goes wrong after that, in between the path from youth to senior football. Something goes wrong then.
Yeah, no, I saw what he said, and I thought it was very honest, and I'm glad that he raised it because it needs to be said. But I thought it was, it's funny because it's something we've been speaking about for many, many years. And I think it's a combination, as I've said. I think he kind of said what I said, what I've been thinking, and that is there's no pathway, which means there's no ability to grow, even though they're good at under 17, under 19, under 21, under 23. And at the same time, since there isn't a pathway, that last step is not taken, and it inhibits their growth to the first teams. I think it's as I've been saying, I think it's some of the play, and often at the under 21, 19, 17, 20, 23, they're tactically so astute, these coaches at youth level, that they're able to outcoach their counterparts and maybe do better than the quality maybe is there as well. Like, do you know what I mean? I think it's a very complex issue. I don't think many of these young players. I think the average Italian young player is more tactically aware and tactically astute than the average under 23, under 19, under 21 player. That shows at the level, but then when you reach senior level, other things matter, and that's where Italian players, young players, struggle to take that step. Some of it is lack of a pathway, some of it is lack of quality. I couldn't tell you the balance. I just think it's a very complex issue.
I agree that there has been people that have said that, Capello, I think, has said it, that at Italian youth level, they're focused too much on tactics and not on technical stuff. If you ever go and see Spanish youth academies and how they train players, and even, I hate to say, even in England nowadays, when I was a youth player, England used to be decades behind the rest of the world. I was in an English youth academy. I was at Luton Town from the age of 11 up until 15. And honestly, and Luton was one of the better academies. This is in the 90s. And it was long ball, kick and rush. That's the kind of stuff. It was laughable. And I remember I used to laugh. I used to think, bloody hell, what chance do I have here? And nowadays, now they've ripped up the whole system kind of after Euro 2008, after the failure to qualify for Euro 2008. England ripped up the whole system. They modernized. They built state of the art. Obviously, all the Premier League money that's come in as well. And now their academies are producing, they're producing incredible players. And it's the whole philosophy behind it, like the Spanish system. It's all about technique, keeping the ball, passing, and if you level because your players are smaller than everyone else and tactically not as smart as everyone else, that's fine. But once you get, like you said, once you get towards your adolescence, or towards you become a man, then it comes out, and you can always teach people tactics. Tactics is always, you can always teach someone tactics, unless you've got an IQ of like below 10. You can teach someone tactics at any age. You can't teach someone technique or those kind of qualities once you've got to a certain age. That's it. You can't teach someone technique.
Agreed. Next question. Jack Hacken says, hi, Neiman Carlo. Master Jedi Allegri here. Was Claudio Marchisio the most underrated player in the great Juventus team of the 2010s? I think yes. No, I think Lichtsteiner was very underrated. I think Marchisio was rated just fine. He was a brilliant player. I don't think he was underrated.
I think it depends. In Italy, in Italy, sometimes I felt like Marchisio was a bit overrated in Italy. On outside of Italy, on the continent, very, very underrated. Maybe the most underrated outside of Italy. Like, he was never talked about out of Italy. It was always Pogba, Vidal, Pirlo, and he was kind of ignored. And but in Italy, I felt like sometimes he was a bit overrated.
You really? No, I thought he was rated fine. I mean, he wasn't world class.
If anything, I think he was overrated. Yeah. That's what I mean.
I thought he was fine. For me, I thought Lichtsteiner was very underrated. I don't think he got the respect he deserved. I mean, yes, he was a little bit like the. I don't know. I thought people just. I don't know. I know that he benefited a lot from Conte's system, but I think even after Conte, he showed that he was a good player. Like, he was
very consistent, and the kind of player that, again, we haven't had many good fullbacks in Italy for a long time now. He's one of those where you have someone like that, and you think, you know what, we can just rely on them, and they'll do the job. Yeah.
And then he says, what are your thoughts on Roma drawing Feyenoord? Again, personally, I'll be very angry if this prediction comes true, and I'm not right my utter contempt for them and their fans and their dinosaur director, and Saurinho as well, an arrogant person at heart. Thanks for the cool pod. I love it because of your sour reaction and the fact that Feyenoord and Roma hate each other and that it's going to be a complete shit show. I hope no one is hurt, but I love it. I love it. I hope Roma play Feyenoord every year, every day for the end of time. It's hilarious. The shit show that ensues online and the rivalry between these people, between these fan bases, is hilarious. I love it. Next question. Vito Campanelli says, hi guys, great job this summer with the podcast. Question for question about Inter. Is Bisek the answer for an aging center back position to eventually replace De Vrij and Acerbi? What qualities does a CC central back need to have, and is Bisek the answer? Thanks. And Sandro M says, hi Carlo and Nima, how can Inter management be so incompetent? Every normal human being knew this defense had to be rejuvenated this season. Grandpa Acerbi is done and dusted, and Bisek showed last season he's not at the level of Inter, and they did not cash in on him, and Inter still has De Vrij and even Palacios on their books. What a mess Inter has put themselves into. This was more than a rant than a question. I believe none of you will have Inter winning the Scudetto this season. Just give it to Napoli. What do you guys rank? How do you guys rank Inter's Mercato? For me, it's 6 out of 10. I like Sucic and Boni, but the rest not so much. That's what'd you make of that?
Well, I think that listen.
Well, actually, let me just add another question
on Sandro. I would say direct you to what Nima said on the pod on.
Well, one second. Let me just add, because I just saw we have another question which is kind of about this. And that's Igor Lipovac, who says, considering the Mercato improved finances, Marotta becoming a shareholder, Auxilio probably gone, stadium project on perpetual hold, could we expect Oaktree to sell Inter in the next year or two? I don't think they're going to wait for the stadium project to be defined fully. Cheers and keep up the good work.
And I would add Ahmed Khaled's question to that.
Yeah,
as well.
Exactly.
Go
on.
Yeah.
What is the project football strategy? Speaking, let me just move that here. There we go. What is the project football strategy and objectives now, given the transfer market has ended for Inter? I think all of these questions are connected together because they kind of go together with the same thing. And my issue is, Oaktree isn't there to invest in Inter. Oaktree is there to make Inter look good and attractive to finances and sell. And a part of that is Marotta being president because he understands the football side of things. And they give him a budget to work with. And then the rest, he just has to sort it out by himself. Making him a shareholder is, in the corporate world, not that, it's quite usual that CEOs that do well and deliver what the owner wants them to do, which is what Marotta has done for Oaktree in the last 3-4, since COVID, when Oaktree entered, they have an option to become co-owners. So that's not unusual. So that's pretty normal in the corporate world. As for the football strategy project, the project for Oaktree is turn a profit every year, reduce the costs, pay off the debt, get the stadium approved, and begin to build, and then sell the club. Football strategy and objectives is what Marotta's been saying since then. We want to compete on all fronts. He never says we're going to win. Only once did they do that, essentially, after COVID, and that was the season when they won the 20th Scudetto. Our objective is to win the Scudetto, and they did. Other than that, it's always been compete on all fronts, meaning top 4, final of the Coppa Italia, as far as you can in the Champions League, because that's where Inter's meal ticket is, and so on and so forth. That's where they are. And so that's that side of that. When it comes to the center back position, and Bisek and Acerbi and Palacios and De Vrij, this is something that has been a problem for 2 years now. And they haven't addressed it because they're not happy with it. They're not happy with the options, or they're not convinced by the financial viability of the options out there. Mistake or not, we'll have to wait and see. Personally, I think someone like Soler, I understand why they didn't go after him. But I think someone like Coppola, Leo, let's remember, they chose Palacios over Leoni. That was a mistake. And they can't afford to make those kinds of mistakes. What do you make? And as for Bisek, I don't think I think that center back, I've been one of the proponents of him playing as a center back because I wanted to see him. But after having seen him, and he's no longer, he's only a young player in Italy. He's actually now 24, 25 in actual life.
Yeah, he's not
and
that
if
young.
And if 24, 25, you still have those deficiencies, you can't play in the middle of a back three. So I was wrong on that. I have no problem admitting it. If he can play, he should play as a right center back, if he should play at all. I think that they wanted more for him this summer. They didn't get the offer they wanted, and so they didn't sell. I personally think that's a mistake. I think the 35, 40 million euros for Jan Bisek, you take the money and you run.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Bisek as a rotation option, absolutely fine. But asking him to be the first choice or a first choice centre-back, wherever that is, whether that's right centre-back or centre-back, for me, wherever that is, he hasn't shown me that he's of the level for a big club like Inter. He will. Maybe that now that he's been given that opportunity with Pavard leaving, he might prove to us all. I don't say prove us wrong, but might prove to us all that he is at that level. And you don't always 100% know until you're given that opportunity. But we can only base it on what we've seen. And for me, he's somebody that he's always got. He's never perfect in a game. There's always something, whether it's a mistake or semi-mistake. There's always, he doesn't seem to be, concentration doesn't seem to be great. Sometimes a little bit out of position. Sometimes a bit too impulsive. And so that's my issue with him. I definitely, the money, if they were getting the kind of money that was suggested, like up to 30 million for him, I would have sold him. I think that would have been a good sale, and you could bring in someone with that money, put that money towards Leone. But obviously, he didn't want to leave. He's got a high opinion, a bit like Chiesa. He's got a high opinion of himself. He's of the value of a big club, which I respect. I think that's a good attitude to have. But obviously, for Inter, that stopped them from being able to sell him. Agreed.
I think that's spot on. That's how I see it. Final question, because we're running out of time. Both Carlo and I have to be somewhere. I've got a meeting starting in 15 minutes, and so do you. But don't worry. Those questions that we didn't have time for this week, we will do next week. So don't worry. Your questions will always be answered, and most of these questions that are left are timeless questions. But I do want to end with this question. Frelyn Aguilar says, is Orsolini the next Berardi, meaning he has the talent to play in a bigger club but stays for the love of the club? Or, as I would like to call it, the next Berardi, that means a mediocre player that Patrick Kendrick fawns over. Yes, Patrick. Boom. Got that in. Listen, Orsolini, Berardi, I think, with all due respect and all jokes aside.
Patrick Kendrick returns now with rallying off stats about how Berardi is the Italian with the most goals and assists from the last 10 years. There, done it for you. Done it for you, Patrick.
Yeah. Orsolini, the next Berardi. He has the. I think Berardi does have the talent to play in a big club. I think Orsolini. Or let me put it to you this way: I think Berardi, when he was younger, had the talent to start for a bigger club. Orsolini, no, rotation player at most. That's, I think, the difference between them.
But obviously, Berardi had many years of consistency, didn't he? Like
exactly.
You knew every season that he was going to get probably double figures goals, double figures assists, and you knew what you were going to get from him. Unfortunately, Berardi is one of those that we can never say for sure what he could have been, because he never left Sassuolo. You don't know until you leave a club of the size of Sassuolo and move to a big club, you can't say 100% how they would have done at that bigger club. And I guess it's the same with Orsolini until he does that. So we can only judge them on what they've done for the clubs that they've done it for. And based on that, obviously Orsolini has quite a way to go to do what Berardi did, because Berardi did it consistently for so many years. Whereas Orsolini, how many years has he done it for? 2 or 3 years now, maybe. So, Berardi was doing it for up to a decade at Sassuolo. Can he move to a big club, Orsolini? I think that I wouldn't compare this to Bisek, but I see Orsolini that if he was to move to a big club, is he someone that you could trust to be? You'd want to have, say a Juventus or an Inter or a Napoli. Is he someone that you'd have as your first choice right winger in a front three for a big club of that level, and say yes, he's going to bring us to be a Scudetto challenger or do really well in Europe? As a first choice starter, I'm not sure. The same thing I would say about Bisek. Is he somebody that I think could be really good as a rotation player, someone that can play a little bit? You could bring him on as a sub. He'd be a weapon. Yes, I think he could be. I think he has the qualities to be. But as that level of player, as a first choice, no, I don't think so.
I agree 100% with all of that. I really have nothing more to add. And I'm really looking forward to Patrick going after us on Twitter for issuing a Neapolitan fatwa on us for taking the name of Berardi in vain. He's going to do all his juju on us now because we insulted Mimmo Berardi. But no, I agree with all of that. I think you're right. I think Berardi is I do hold Berardi higher to Orsolini, but I do think Orsolini is better man v man than Berardi is, which is kind of an interesting one. I think 1v1
is better one-on-one than Berardi, like running at a player one-on-one. That's the one issue that I had with Berardi.
Yeah, that's what I think so.
Yeah, Berardi never had that.
But Berardi's not very good at beating his man. I think Orsolini's better than 1v1 beating his man and stuff like that. But I think overall as a player, I think Berardi is much better. I do. But I think both of them, like you said, we never know. But with Berardi, it was more, he was happy at Sassuolo. With Orsolini, to answer the question, with Orsolini, I think he just wasn't good enough. I think he would pounce if a Milan, Juve, or Inter came calling, honestly. I think he would pounce at that. With Berardi, it was love. He was happy where he was. Right. That's all the questions we had time for this week. The remaining 5 questions will be answered next week, together with all the other questions that you keep sending in. So please do keep sending them in via DM on Patreon. And thank you for all of you on keeping the questions down to 100 words or less. As you've noticed, we managed to get through more questions when you do that. And we the conversation and discussions flow much better. We'll be back with a post-match reaction of Italy Estonia.
Yeah, that's the plan. I don't want to say 100%. I'm just trying to work out my schedule, but I'm going to try and do a post-match reaction on Italy. And then, on Monday we have a Q&A. And then next week we're going to be doing a Champions League preview show in
midweek.
Yes.
Nice.
Ahead of match day 1 and the Champions League as a whole. Let's say the
Champions League as a whole. Yeah. Exactly. So we're doing the Q&A on Monday. So we really need you to send in your questions for Monday by the time you listen to this, because we need to have you guys.
I would say wait until after the Italy game against Estonia before.
If you have an Italy related question. If you don't, then send in as soon as possible. Right. That's all the time we had this week for the Q&A. Please, like I said, do keep sending in your questions on the DM on Patreon. And we'll be back later in the week, probably when Carlo does a post-match reaction to Italy Estonia. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and ciao.